Hi, this is Mr. Teal coming at you. Today is September 21st. It's a Monday. Hopefully, you're feeling okay. This is a video for those people who need the additional help or for those individuals who are absent. For today, we're done with our first feedback. We did that on Friday for those of you that missed it. We'll be handing those back. We've got our first packets turned in for the school year. So we've had a lot of things happen recently. So for those people that have been absent for a couple of days, hopefully we can get you caught up here pretty quick. So today's lesson, we're going to go ahead and just have you guys start out. It says use either a number line or integer tile model to solve each of the following. This is today's self-start. So the first one, -2 plus 3. Second one, -3 minus 2, and 1 minus 9. So I'm going to have you go ahead and hit pause and go ahead and work those out on a separate piece of paper and then come back to me. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and solve all three of them using both methods just in case, so you can double check your work depending on which way you chose. The first one, -2 plus 3. What this tells me is that I need to draw 2 negatives here, and I need to draw 3 positives. There's a 0 pair, there's a 0 pair, and in the end I am left with 1 positive left over. If I were to do this on a number line, there's no 0, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I would go 2 in the negative, 1, 2, and then I would go 3 in the positive, 1, 2, 3, and either way you look at it, I would end up at a positive 1. For the second one, -3 minus 2. Don't forget about that superpower. A lot of people will look at that and just try to do 3 minus 2, and that doesn't quite work. So there's my superpower. I have to remember that there's a consequence that follows. It always follows. It doesn't come before, so we don't care about that yet. So the opposite, the consequence is the opposite of this number. So the opposite of a positive 2 is a -2. That now changes my problem into a -3 plus a -2. So I'm going to draw 3 negatives, and then I'm going to draw 2 more negatives. I don't have any positives, so I can't make any 0 pairs. So in the end, I'm just going to count them all up, and I'm left with 5 negatives. If I were to do this on a number line, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. Oop, there we go. So I'm going to go 3 in the negative, 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to go 2 more in the negative, 1, 2, and I end up at a -5. So I'm going to use that same logic for this third problem. I'm going to use my superpower because it's a subtraction problem, and the consequence follows. So the opposite of a positive 9 is a -9. So that changes it to a 1 plus a -9. So I'm going to draw 1 positive, 9 negatives, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's a 0 pair I can make, and that leaves me with 8 negatives. On a number line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We'll just go to 9. So I'm going to go 1 positive, so like this, and then 9 in the negative. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I actually ended up at a -8. So there you go. There's the answers for today's self-start. We're going to go through the rest of them. Hopefully you did well on those. So there's your deep thought. You're welcome to pause it and read it if you so desire. Again, here's the classroom info. You can check your grades now. Everything should be up to date. You're welcome to read the rest of those. Please remember this Friday, if you're going to be here, please wear red. I don't want to listen to Mrs. Fawcett anymore. She's bragging it up. So today's schedule is going to look like this. We've already done the self-start. Today, we're going to take everything we've learned about adding and subtracting, and we're going to now apply them for real-life situations, aka story problems, because everybody loves story problems. So here we go. So here's some just a couple of tips for you in making real life or story problems a little bit easier to do. I know they're not the favorite, but some things you can do to help understand them. Draw pictures. So, if it's talking about an airplane, draw a picture of an airplane. If it's talking about a whale underwater, draw a whale underwater. Number lines or integer chips, those are also pictures that you could draw to kind of help out. Now, if you're dealing with big numbers, I probably would avoid those two, but it's definitely an option for you. Pick out keywords. This one, probably the important one. This is the one that you probably want to master because it will help you for this year and for years to come. So you can watch for things or keywords to help determine if it's going to be a positive or a negative. So words like increase, that's going to be a positive, or decrease, well, that's going in negative. Rise, positive, fall, negative. Ascend, that means to go up, so that's a positive. Descend means to go down, so that's a negative. If you owe money or if you borrow money, both of those are negative. If you earn money, that's a positive though. So, watching for words like that will help you be able to set up your problem. And probably the most important thing, use your common sense. You've got to think to yourself when you get an answer, does my answer make sense? If you get an answer saying that, the whale is 10 feet above the water, that doesn't quite work. That doesn't make sense. So, think about it. Does my answer make sense? So we start off with a problem like this. Maddie has 6 M&Ms, Karen has 4 M&Ms. What's the difference in the number of M&Ms? Well, most people will just say, Maddie has 2 more. Well, how did you figure out it was 2 more? And most people will just say that. And that's great, but remember, we're in 7th grade now. So something like that you want to be careful of. And there you go. The key word in this one, what do you hear or what do you think of when you hear the word difference in math? Difference typically means subtraction. So the difference in the number of wins versus losses, the difference in the number of boys versus the number of girls in class, stuff like that. So difference in math means subtract. And I hope that you're either going to write this down or commit it to memory. Difference means subtract. So something like this. Find the difference in the following 2 pairs of numbers. 10 and 2, 15 and 3, 5 and -1, -2 and -8. So these first couple, you're going to think well, it's just something like this. The difference is 8. Okay, so far so good. Difference between 15 and 3 gives me a 12. Now we start getting down here, and people are going to want to do something like this. But there's a problem. Difference does mean subtract, but this is a negative one, so we're actually going to be subtracting a negative. Now, hopefully at this point you're comfortable with using that superpower because you should have done it up here and should have done it up here too. So in this case, I have to use my superpower. My consequence is I need to take the opposite of what follows. So the opposite of a -1 is a +1. So now I have 5 plus a +1, which is 6. So now we're going to do that exact same thing right here. -2, difference means subtract. We're going to do a -8. Superpower, consequence. That's going to get you an answer of 6. So the one key thing with this, or maybe one thing that might help you with it, is you have to think to yourself, how far away from 0 is 5? And how far away from 0 is -1? Well, 5 is 5 away from 0, and -1 is 1 away from 0. -2 is 2 places away from 0 in the negative, and negative 8 is 8 places away from 0. So there you go. So temperature is definitely something that we use a lot with negative numbers. So the important thing, what I like to do with these is I always take the positive number first and then subtract the negative number, but that's just me. So it says, this morning the temperature was negative 5 degrees. This afternoon the temperature was 11 degrees. What is the temperature difference? There's that word. There's that keyword, difference. So no matter what, I automatically know I'm going to be subtracting something. So I like to put the positive number first, and then I like to subtract the negative number, because that way I know that I use a superpower and a consequence. So the difference is 16. The other thing you can do, and this might help several people, here's my 0, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, negative 7, negative 8, negative 9, negative 10, negative 11. We'll just kind of use the number lines for the numbers. So if I go back to my original problem, which was 11 and negative 5, that tells me, okay, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So how many jumps is it going to take me to get from an 11, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, to a negative 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So notice it took me 11 jumps to go from 11 to 0. That's how far away it is. 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So that's an option too. You can sit there and count the number of jumps between those two numbers. Let's try another one. Temperature in New York was 15 degrees. The temperature in Detroit was negative 3 degrees. What's the difference? There's that word again. Difference, hopefully you've understood, means subtract. What's the difference in temperature? So once again, I like to put the positive number first and then my negative number second. That allows me to do superpower and consequence. And the difference on the number line is 18. If I were to draw this out, there's my 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15. So there's my 15. And 1, negative 2, negative 3. There's my negative 3. So there's my two numbers on my number line. I could just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. It took me 18 jumps to get there. So now, let's talk about distance. Distance, first off, can't be negative. You don't say that I drove negative 15 miles, you just say I drove 15 miles. The biggest thing, once again, use your common sense. If you get an answer that doesn't make sense, try setting it up and solving it a different way. So a high diver jumps off a diving board 15 feet above the ground into a pool 20 feet deep and then touches the bottom. What's the distance the diver traveled? So I'm going to draw a picture because, number one, I'm not a very good artist. So here's my diver diving off. So that was 15 feet above the water. Oh, water's got to be blue. There's my water. It goes all the way to the bottom, which was 20 feet deep. So 20 feet deep means that it's underwater, so it's under the surface. So it's going to look something like this. So I want to know the total distance he traveled. Well, we know he traveled 15 feet to get from here to here. And if he wants to touch the bottom, he's got to go another 20 feet down. So most people, however, will want to do something like this. So be careful with this, because this says that he went a total of -5 feet. So that means he went down 5 feet. So he's kind of hovering right here, I guess. Yeah, that doesn't quite make sense. So let's see. Well, we know he went 15 feet. And we know that he went 20 feet. So distance, like a problem like this, tends to be a subtraction type problem. So we like to use superpowers and consequence. And we know he traveled 35 feet. Or you could say, well, he went 15 feet that way. And then he went 20 more feet down. And that would give me, well, that's kind of an ugly 3, but it'll work. Just like this. So use your common sense. If you get something that doesn't make sense, try something different. Because if somebody would have tried to do this, they still would have gotten that -5, and that just didn't make sense. So hopefully you come back. We'll get some more practice with this. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me.